Is
Oh
everybody
my.
seeing the presentation? Don't worry about it. It's
Yes.
now,
Yes.
I
so
think I'll need some Dramamine with that.
yeah,
Hmm.
there will be a test at the end. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, well, my first slide should have been, but it's not. My first slide should have been about this book here. This is the book Mindset. And in this book, the author, Carol Dweck, quotes Benjamin Barber. Benjamin Barber once said, he was a sociologist. He said, I don't divide the world into the weak and the strong, or the successes or the failures. I divide the world into the learners and the non-learners. And this book was very important to me while I was teaching, because it helps teachers understand their students. What we find is that there are two types of people in this world. There are people who have a fixed mindset that where they're not going to move forward, they're not going to learn, they're not going to grow. And you have people, on the other hand, who have a growth mindset. And in a growth mindset, you're always gaining more. You're always moving forward. You're always challenging yourself. You're always setting new aspirations for yourself. So I'm going to encourage all of us to have a growth mindset over the next year, especially when it comes to writing and thinking of writing, getting a mindset that writing is a business. So I am going to, oh, you know, that is not what should have happened. I am sorry, I've got to back this up. And this is, okay, I understand what happened. Give me a second here. And all right, so this is the first part of writing as a business. It's having the business mindset. It's looking at your writing, your books that you're writing, as a product, just like you would look at any other product that you would make to sell. You've got to think about your market. You've got to think about working with other people who are professionals that are going to help you with your marketing and your selling of your books, networking, competition, and the whole aspect of promotion. On top of this, you have your platform, which we've talked about to some degree. And on top of that, you have your expertise, your personal expertise at your craft, which is something that we're always developing in our club. Your skills, your understanding of writing, the nomenclature, the tools, and we do a lot of this through our writing club. But tonight, Jenny is going to take a slice of this concept of writing as a business, and she's going to talk about money management. Money management would include things like bookkeeping, taxes, pricing of your books, as well as different expenditures that go along with your business. So without any further ado, I would like us all to give Jenny Margada a round of applause and thank her for being willing to share her expertise with us tonight.
Yay
Come on.
me.
Hey.
Okay,
Okay, Mike.
the rest of us are going to mute ourselves and we're going to let you have the floor, Jenny.
Okay, I need my slide. I love this guy. I cracked up when I found this particular image. I really liked him. Some of the things I'll touch on very, very briefly. Primarily, we're going to talk about the tax implications and how you figure out what sales tax are due, how you get registered with both Amazon KDP and I will deal with Amazon KDP. I'm assuming that it would be similar if you're dealing with other on-demand printers. How you get registered with the state of California to become a reseller, and so that you're not paying taxes when you buy your books from Amazon and those kinds of things. Mike mentioned a little bit that I would talk about pricing your books. That's almost an Act 2 meeting by itself. Very, very briefly, the rule of thumb is if you're selling your books, you want to have at least make as much money as your book costs you. So what I'm trying to say is if your book costs you $5, you want to sell your book for, at least $10 so that you get $5 back. But you have to remember that part of that is sales tax. So you would actually, like if in Victorville, you'd want to sell your book for, $11 or $12. So, but by the time you pay your sales tax, you're paying $5 to buy the book and you put $5 in your pocket. That's a very, very general rule of thumb. If you're selling it to a bookstore or like Amazon, for instance, Amazon takes 40% off the top. So they will take 40% of your cover price plus their printing cost, the same printing cost that you pay, and you get what's left over, and they deal with all the taxes and stuff. So a very rough guesstimate again, if you know what your book costs you, do it times 3 plus $1. And I don't know why the dollar works, but it does. When you back it back up again, you basically end up with a profit, a royalty from them that's about the same as what your cost is. So just remember, at a traditional, any bookstore that you sell to is going to want to take 40% of your cover price off the top. But then you also have to get into, are you a known author? What your market is, how much your name is worth. You don't get greedy and say, well, I'm going to sell my book for $40 if nobody knows who you are, because nobody's going to pay $40 probably for a novel of somebody they've never heard of. So I'll just, like I said, we could spend an hour just on pricing. So we're going to move past that. But let's talk specifically tonight about how you become a registered reseller with the state of California and Amazon, and then how you track what sales tax you owe and the process of paying that sales tax. So next slide, please. You don't need to make a note of all of these things because we are going to send out this PDF to everybody who attends tonight. And I will also announce at the meeting that anybody who's not here can get a copy of it too if they want it. But in order to become a registered reseller with the state of California, you need to go to the California Tax Franchise Board, which is the cdtfa.california.gov HTTP address there. If you go out and say, just search online for California reseller's license, be very, very sure that you get back to this ca.gov site, because there are a lot of sites out there that will hijack you, and then they want you to pay them to file it. And you never pay to get a resale license. It is free through the state. So just make sure you don't get hijacked. When you go to that site, you go down where I've got the red arrow and it'll say obtain seller's permit, and you click on that button. Next slide, please, Mike. You'll get a screen that shows all the different options, and you want to go down and click on the seller's permit. And then, I think it says, let's see, I'm having trouble seeing on my little tiny laptop screen. You click on the seller's permit link, and then it says begin registration. It's going to ask you what you think your annual sales are going to be. You want to keep it fairly low to begin with. I set mine at like $200 a year. Keep it less than $500. That doesn't mean you can't sell more than that, but if you set it really high, if you say, oh, I'm going to make $5,000 this year, and I'm not sure what the ceiling is, but if you set it too high, I know they will come back and tell you that you have to file quarterly reports. So until you know what you pretty much are going to do every year, just put in a couple of $100 and then you only have to do it annually. You won't have to worrying about the quarterly stuff. So our next slide, Mike. Once you've registered with California, by the way, and it's all done online and it is free, and they will send you, you can download the copy of the seller's permit. Once you've got that, what you then need to do, if you're going to go through KDP or you're going to be selling your books on Amazon, other books, you want to register with Amazon as a reseller. Now, the reason for doing that is if you don't register with them as a reseller, when you order your author copies from KDP, they're going to charge you sales tax. Now, one of the misconceptions, and we'll get to that later, is that the state of California does not care if you paid sales tax when you bought your books. You have to send them sales tax based on what you sold your books for. So I'm the bookkeeper, I'm the accountant. I don't mind paying what I owe, but I don't want to pay anything extra. And I don't want to pay double sales tax on the cost of my book. So you want to get set up as a reseller with Amazon so that when you order your author copies, you're not paying sales tax. And then that'll save you when you do your annual reports with the state of California. So you go to Amazon to the link there, and like I said, that you'll get this this PDF, but you can also just go out now. You can go out to the internet and just type in Amazon tax exemption program on your internet search bar, and it will take you here. And you'll get this screen where you see, and there's a link down there. It says go to the tax exemption wizard. You see my little red arrow down there. And just click on that link. Next slide, please, Mike. And you just answer all their questions, and it's just the typical, who are you, and they'll ask you when you go to KDP, when you set up your books with KDP, and we're not going to get into that tonight, but you do a 1099 with KDP, and they'll have all your banking information and know where to send your royalties and all of this kind of stuff. This right here is just simply to get set up as a tax exemption. One thing to remember, and it's just kind of a little aside here, make sure if you're dealing with KDP, make sure that your email address and your password absolutely have to be identical for both your Amazon account and your KDP account because they are linked. So if you change your Amazon account for some reason or your password, you have to change it in KDP as well because they talk to each other. You can't have two different passwords going on there. Once you get your Amazon reseller, and there again, it's all done online. You can download the form and you're good to go. One of the things you need to remember, like I order from Amazon constantly because I don't get out and go shopping a lot. So if you're buying something that's not tax exempt, which is primarily everything except the books that you're going to buy to resell, or if you're reselling pens or something else, you have to go in and remove that tax exemption from each of the items that you're ordering through Amazon. Otherwise, then that opens a whole other can of worms that you're supposed to report taxes, stuff you bought you haven't paid sales tax to and all those happy things. So you do that by you go ahead and you just put everything in your cart that you want to order. You go to your cart, you click on proceed to checkout, and you'll see under each item that you're trying to order down at the bottom, there's a little thing and it will say tax exemption applied. And you have to click on that word remove. So if you've got 6 things in your shopping cart, you have to remove it from each item just once. It's not a everything in my cart thing. You have to remove it from each item. And you want to make sure you do that because like I said, you need to pay sales tax on things that you're not reselling. So, we need to be honest about these kinds of things. And then once you remove it, you just go ahead and process through and pay for your order and just like you normally do for everybody else. So, next slide, please, Mike. Okay, so now you're registered. Now what? Okay, I've done all that. What good is it going to do me? Once you have a resale license with the state of California, you have to file a sales tax return every year. If you do not file one in 2 consecutive years, they void your resale license. And if you then start selling books and you have to go back and get a new sales tax license and go through the whole thing all over again. And you have to go back to Amazon because Amazon asks you what your resale license number is. So if you get a new resale license, you have to update your Amazon. So it's best, even if you don't have any sales, to go ahead and fill out your annual sales return with the state of California and just say 0 sales. It's a lot less hassle to do that than it is to reapply for everything. So I always recommend, even if you don't sell anything, still fill out your report. So next slide, please, Mike. All right, the easiest way that I do it is to sell your books for an even dollar amount. It's and I like to even do it like $10 and $15, those kinds of numbers, so I don't have to worry about singles. But at the very least, you want to, if you're doing direct, if you've got an author's table someplace, if you go to, to the bookstore and sell, or at our club meetings or wherever you're selling your books, it's always easiest to do them with even dollar amounts. And you can, I mean, if you're only selling 1 or 2 books, you sold it for $10, you can say, okay, I owe 78 cents tax if I sold it at the church on that $10. But I'm the bookkeeper. And to me, I don't like doing that because that means I'm giving the state more money than I need to give them. And it's really not all that difficult to figure out. I call it backdooring what you actually sold the book for. And it's a really simple formula. You figure out what your sales tax is for wherever you sold your book. And you have to keep track. We'll get to an Excel spreadsheet a little bit later. You have to keep track of where you sold your book because sales tax varies from county to county and even from city to city within a county. Like Apple Valley has a different sales tax rate than Victorville does. So you need to know where you sold your book so that you know what your tax rate is. And you take that sales tax rate plus 100%. So here's your formula. If you sold your book in Apple Valley for $10, you take $10 and you divide it by 107.75%. That gives you $9.28. So let's say this is the only book you sold all year. You would tell the state of California that you had $9.28 in sales. And for that $9.28, you owe them 72 cents in tax. So it's a really an easy way of doing it. So let's look at another example, Mike. Let's go to another slide. Here's my example 2. I sold 2 books for $15 a piece in Victorville. The tax rate in Victorville is 8.75%. So 2 times 15 obviously is $30. $30 divided by 108.75% is $27.59. And you always round to the nearest decimal point. So you would report $27.59 in reported sales and $2.41 in sales tax collected. And you can always double check it if you want to work backwards just to make sure. Then it's the net, what you sold your books for, $27.59 times 8.75% gives you that same $2.41 that we calculated working the other way around. So it kind of sounds a little bit complicated, but it really isn't if you stop and think about it. Just remember, it's 100% plus whatever your sales tax rate is. And then so you take your even dollar amount and divide it by that 100% plus your sales tax rate. And that's what the answer to that is what you report as your sales. And the difference between that calculated amount and the full dollar amount that you sold your books for is your sales tax. So it's really pretty simple. So let's go to the next slide. there are several common, I say there are 4 and I only listed 3, but oh no, I take that back. It's slide number 4. Sorry about that. There are quite a few misconceptions about paying sales tax. One of them is that what I mentioned briefly before, well, I paid sales tax on my books when I bought them, so I only need to pay the difference to the state between what I paid for it and what I sold it for. Like I said, California doesn't care if you paid sales tax when you bought those books. They want the sales tax figured on what you sold the book for, which is why we went through that whole going backwards examples that I just gave you. So that's there again, that's why you want to get set up as a reseller so that you're not paying double taxation to the state. The other misconception is I gave the book away, I don't owe anybody anything. Wrong. You have to pay sales tax on the cost of your books if you give them away or you donate them. And this is based on the tax there is based on your cost. So like if I'm going to give a book to Mary Thompson for her World Book Night and my book costs me $4.25 and I live in the city of Victorville, I pay 8.75% times that $4.75 cost of my book. Shipping and handling is not included when you're figuring out what you owe in sales tax. You don't pay sales tax on service and labor. You only pay sales tax on the actual physical cost of the book that you bought. And it's based on where you had your books shipped to, which normally is going to be your home address. So it doesn't matter if I physically give the book to Mary at the meeting in Apple Valley, I still figure that I donated that book based on my Victorville sales tax rate. You do not collect sales tax on anyone with a valid California resale license. If Richard Zone says to me, Jenny, I want 20 of your books to sell when I go, to wherever, down to Ontario, and I sell those books to him, I say, Richard, give me a copy of your sales tax license. If he gives me his, and if we don't charge sales tax, we're required to have a valid sales tax license from that purchaser in our files. Now, I will say I've been doing this for 20 years and nobody's ever asked me for one. But as the bookkeeper, I have to tell you that's what you're required to have on file. So if you sell it to someone, either an individual or a business, a bookstore, I know there are several bookstores here that there's the Mustard Seed, I think it's called, that carries our books sometimes. If you get a copy of her resale license, you don't have to charge her sales tax when you sell the books to her. But you do have to track them and keep a list of them, because when you do your sales tax report to the state, that's part of your gross sales, but there is a part of that form that you fill out that says, what did you sell, that were tax exempt or non-taxable? And so you have to break that down, which is, we're going to get to it. I'll show you an Excel worksheet that I keep. So these are the misconceptions. You have to pay sales tax on what you sold the book for, even if you paid sales tax on the cost when you bought it. If you give your books away or donate them, you have to pay sales tax based on your cost, and you do not collect sales tax on anyone with a valid resale license. Or if you have a friend who says, I want to buy your book and I live in Florida, and you mail that book to Florida, you do not charge sales tax. And there again, when you fill out your annual return with California, there is a place that they will ask you if you had out-of-state sales. So unless you have a business presence in a state other than California and you are registered with that state, you do not have to pay sales tax on it. So next slide, please. So you might know, last year I went to Ridgecrest. I was in Ontario. I was in Bakersfield. I was in Apple Valley, and I was in Victorville. So those are 5 different locations where I sold my books. How am I supposed to know what all of those different sales tax rates are? Well, obviously, there's a website you can go to that will tell you that. Because, like I said, the sales tax varies from county to county and even from city to city within those counties. So Go to the next slide, please, Mike. The CDTFA website that I gave you at the beginning of this presentation has a sales tax calculator in it, but it's a little bit complicated and it doesn't give you the information that this one that I found breaks down. So I recommend this one. To me, it's really easy to use. You can see it's just saletax.com and then it's California all. So you go to that website and you click on the all in that menu there where you see my bright red arrow. And when you click on that, you get the next menu. You come up with a screen and it's alphabetical, and you just scroll down through that list until you find the city that you're looking for. The example that I'm using here, of course, is Apple Valley, and it tells you what I had said before, that the sales tax rate for Apple Valley is 7.75%. If you click on that Apple Valley link, you get the next screen. And this is the part that I like that the state site doesn't give you. It actually breaks it down and tells you how much is state tax, how much is county tax. And in this case, Apple Valley doesn't have any city tax. Had we used Victorville as an example, you would have seen that Victorville had an additional 1% tax for the city there. And because I think they used to, and I think it still does, when you fill out your state report, they ask you how much of it is county tax or how much of it is city tax. So this is a really nice thing. It even gives you the zip codes. If you're not sure that you think it's in Victorville or you think it's in Apple Valley or whatever, it tells you what county you're in, and it tells you even what your zip codes are. So it's a really nice, easy site to use to find all of your different sales tax if you're all over the state selling things. Next slide, please, Mr. Apodaca. Okay, so now we're ready to, I've talked about, you know, how we sell it, how we set our prices, how we know what's sales tax and what's our selling price, all those kinds of things. And like I said, just to repeat, you must track all of your sales. This includes books you give away, books sold to non-taxable entities, books sold out of state, taxable sales, your selling price, and your sales tax collected. The easiest way for me to do this is to use an Excel worksheet. So let's look at mine. This is a dummy one. It's not real, but I just set one up. So next slide, please. All right. And I have 4 different books. Like I said, I just dummied this one up, but my actual one, I have 4 different books. So I have my Excel workbook. I have a tab for each book because my prices vary when I'm selling things. It's easier for me to do it on a book by book basis. But you'll notice that I've got pretty much everything there that you're going to need. You've got your printing costs, and you have to be aware, like for instance, in 2023, Amazon or KDP raised their printing prices as of the 20th of June. The California fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th, the same as our club, so it's kind of easy to remember. So if you happen to buy any books in that last 10 days of June, then your cost is different than it was in the first 11 and a half months of the year. So that's why I've got my printing costs up there. And you need to know what your printing costs are, what you paid for your books if you're giving them away anyway. So that's information. So you'll see I've got the date of sale down there. I've got the number of books sold. I've got my location, Apple Valley, Victorville. I made up a Hideaway Books, which, you know, a bookstore that I sold books to, and you'll see that I say that in the location tax rate, I noted that it was non-taxable, so I didn't have to worry about that. I've got my giveaway column. I've got my books sold, what I sold it for, the cover price of each book, and then I've got my gross sales, which obviously is the cover price times the number of books sold on that line item. The sales tax collected, which there again is that formula that I gave you, which would be the gross sales, the first line would be gross sales of $20 divided by 107.75%. The reportable taxable sales was $18.56, of which the sales tax collected was $1.44. So I just listed every sale throughout the year for the various locations. And I didn't, you'll see the like Ridgecrest has a 9.25% sales tax rate. So you do all of that. Then you just total everything at the bottom. If this were the only sales that I had for the calendar year, you would report $130.64 in taxable sales. You would report $108 in non-taxable sales. So your gross sales for the calendar year would be $238.64. And your total sales tax collected is $11.65. Now, when you're actually filling out your report, they will break it down by the various counties. So there's a little more to it than that, which is why you need your separate line items. But that's basically how I do my sales, I set up my sales tax, and I track it all the time. The books that I give away, I give quite a few away, and I do sell them. If you sell a book on Amazon, and you all probably know this, if you sell the book on Amazon, you don't have to track it. It's not reported to the state of California. You will get a 1099 from them at the end of the year telling you what your total royalties were. And you have to report that as taxable income when you fill out your own personal income tax return. But it's not part of the tax of the book sales that you're tracking for the state of California, because you didn't actually sell them. Amazon did. They handle all of that. They just give you the royalties. So do we have another slide, Mike? Now, we've figured it all out. We've figured out all of our sales tax. We've done our handy dandy worksheet on Excel, and we're ready to start our return. And like I said, you have to file one every year, or if you don't do one after 2 years, they'll void your permit. So you don't want to do that. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, how do you do the tax if you have purchased your books off Amazon to sell in a bookstore? You never want to do that. You never want to buy your own books directly from Amazon. Always go to KDP or to whoever your on-demand printer is and buy author copies, because you buy your author copies at your cost. If you buy them directly from Amazon, you're paying the cover price, so you're not going to make any money. So never, never buy your own books from Amazon. Always go and buy your author copies. And you can even buy author copies to send to other people. Amazon's really good. You just ship it to a different address than your home address. So, like when I sent my Christmas presents out, I sent author copies to my brother and sister who live in West Virginia and Florida, and I just had Amazon ship them directly to their house. I just didn't gift wrap them. They didn't care anyway. So filing is free with the state of California. The returns are due on July 15th of each year, and your sales are based on the fiscal year of July 1st of one year through June 30th of the following year. So next slide. We're going back to the cdtfa.california.gov website, which is the same as the one where we applied for our sales tax license. Only this time we're going to click on the file a return option. And then that's the top arrow on the right-hand side. It says file a return. And then on the screen below, you want to click on file a return or prepayment. And you go, it'll take you to the next menu. So next slide. You'll get this screen. If you're a first-time user, obviously, you have to go down and click on the sign up now button, and you will create a username and a password. Once you've done that, make sure you write it down, and it is case sensitive, because when you come in the next year to file your return, you go up and just do the login with your username and password, just like most other sites. So assuming that we've already done this a year before, we're put in our username and our password, and you click on the file a return over on the other side. I didn't put red buttons, red arrows, but you can follow this one. And when you click on that file a return, I didn't go into it because I'm not ready to file my return, and they don't like you to do that unless you're ready to actually do it. They don't like you to play around and then back out again. But it's really pretty self-explanatory. It goes over most of the things that I hit on the Excel worksheet. It asks you what your gross sales are. It asks you then what the taxable and the non-taxable were, and then you get into what other what locations did you sell, and you break it down that way. So it's fairly self-explanatory. You pay online, and I pretty much always have them take it out of my checking account because I think there's a surcharge. I'm not sure how much it is, $250, $350, something like that. That's dollars, not hundreds. They do charge you a surcharge for using your credit card. So I pretty much have them do an e-check out of my checking account because that I don't have to pay them anymore. And like I said, I don't like to pay the state more than I have to. And make sure that make sure you go to this CDTFA website, because there are other sites that will tell you that you can file your returns with them, but then they want you to pay them. Sometimes, $40 or $50, and it is always free to get your seller's permit, and it is always free to file your sales tax return if you're in the right site. If you get into a site that wants you to pay for it, you're in the wrong site, and back out and start all over again. So you pay online and you do it instantaneously. You print out, and if you want to, you can print out the return and mail them a check. But I always have a tendency to wait until like the 14th. And so it's easy. It's just easier to do it online. But you can print out your return and actually mail them a check if you're old school. And then you're done until the next year and you start all over again. So I know I went pretty quickly. That's a lot to keep in mind. Like I said, you will get a copy of this presentation so that you do have all of those links and stuff. But now, if I imagine we've probably got maybe some questions from some people, unless I was just so good that nobody has a question. Thank God I'm married to an accountant.
I
Yeah,
have a
for
ton
those of us-
questions, but I don't know if I should start them all here.
Ask away, Catherine.
When you say, okay, so I'm confused of how to get your books in the bookstore. So you order your author copies and you take them to a bookstore and then you sell them there. Is that how you do that?
You can, like I said, I know there's a bookstore called the Mustard Seed that's very, very supportive of local authors. It's either here in Victorville, it's over by the college someplace, unless they moved. Not sure where they are these days. So yeah, you can do that. I'm not talking about like getting your books into Barnes and Noble. You don't just walk into Barnes and Noble with a stack of books. If you have some independent bookstores, you can go with a stack of books and ask them if they will carry your books. Getting your books into Barnes and Noble is a massive project and is really difficult. They want a really, really complex business plan and all kinds of marketing and guarantees. And so I don't even go there.
Well, you
But
know what? Anita's question was going to be my next question as well. So go ahead. But
no,
she
I was
touched
just going
me.
to say, yeah, you go to it there again. My examples tonight are all with KDP. I'm assuming that most other on-demand printers are a similar process. But if you want to buy your books, you go to your KDP account and
Okay.
you click on the little 3-dot button over on the right-hand side on your bookshelf. And one of the options is to order author copies. You tell them how many books you want to order. You tell them the website you're ordering it from, which us here in the US, of course, is Amazon.com. And then that automatically links you back out to your Amazon account, which is why your email and password have to be identical for KDP and Amazon. And then you
Okay.
finish your sale on your Amazon account.
Does anybody have like experience of going bookstore to bookstore to try and like get book signings set up with them and having their name out there and building that relationship with bookstores?
We have several that do here. I don't because I'm physically not able to do that anymore. But Mike, I'll let you handle that. I know you've done it.
Yeah, I actually do have my books in the mustard seed. I just went in and talked to the owner and had a set of my books with me, and she liked them and she put them on the shelf. A lot of it, there are not a lot of independent bookstores even out there anymore. They're very few and far between. We used to have one up in Apple Valley, but it closed.
Books.
Yeah, yeah. So they're just hard to find. Now we do book signings at the Towns Inn in Apple Valley. We've done book signings there, and that's been really exciting and really helpful. And Bob and I are it's one of the things we have right now on the back burner, but we want to meet with the people at Barnes and Noble, meet with the manager, and try to start establishing a relationship between our club and Barnes and Noble, since they're our local large bookseller, and see what we can do, see what the process is, because if people are interested, we want to make that available as a resource.
So Mike, when you go to Towns End, you could just take your stack of books and go to any farmer's market, essentially, right? And have your books there and sell them?
No,
Or do you have to go through a bookstore?
when, for instance, Towns End, we have a relationship with Towns End, and we rent a booth. And our club helps to defray some of the cost, and the author will pay some of the cost for the booth. And then you
Okay.
have that booth for the day and you can sell in that booth. Same thing is true at the farmer's market, the one that's in
The college.
the college. Yeah, the one at the
Okay.
college. You have to rent a booth. And
Okay, yeah.
and I've heard that the people that rent booths at the college, at that farmer's market, they just don't, people don't buy books there. They're not, that's not why they're going there. Towns End has been really not bad at all. I've done pretty well there.
I think as a new author, I just kind of want to get out there and people see me and get my name, and because I'm also a content creator. So like for both aspects of the content creating and the book, like I'm just curious how to do the next step. So thank you.
This gets into marketing a little bit, but I belong to a club called Paperback Swap. And what they do is you swap books back and forth rather than buying the book. Somebody requests you list them on their site, and somebody requests a book for you. You ship it to them, and you pay the shipping cost, and then you get a credit and in the site, and then you can request a book from anybody else on the site. So it's swapping as opposed to actually selling, like half price books or something. But what I do is when I send out a book to somebody in that club, I include my business card and my bookmarks that have the books that I've published on them. And so I do that as kind of a marketing thing. So they have a list of the books that I've sold that I've written with the ISBN numbers and that kind of stuff. But I also include my business card as an editor and a book formatter and that kind of stuff. And I actually have picked up one editing job from someone who said, I got your card in a book I ordered from you. What kind of editor are you? And I ended up doing an editing project with the lady. So that's kind of my little niche as far as a little bit of marketing that I do.
And I throw in a little plug here. If you go to the website, hdcwc.com, and go on the left column, there's a column of things. And go down to where it says published, now what? Click on that. It's a 22-minute video, and it gives you a lot of really good ideas about what to do next. You got your book published, now what? It's a big question. So do that, HDCWC, on the left-hand column, published, now what? And just click and watch that video. It's 22 minutes. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Mustard Seed is strictly Christian genre. I don't think they want anything else except Christian.
Right.
Well, they'll take things that aren't necessarily Christian, but they won't take things that are have sex in them or a lot of violence, or they pretty much want G-rated books. Like they would take my mother's memoir, and it's not Christian, but it doesn't have sex and violence in them. They probably would not want my young adventure adult novels because I kill off a Catholic cardinal at the beginning and that kind of stuff. So
Catherine, also, I just put in the chat a link to our Wednesday morning meeting. We have a Wednesday morning Zoom meeting. If you wanted to come and join us, that's a place where we discuss marketing and how to get your book sold. It makes you, it's an informal discussion with other members of the club.
I'm gonna hop on there every time I have a chance. So I'm excited. Thank you, because you sent me
Yeah,
that the other day too. So thank you.
the selling and the marketing and the advertising it's its whole other world. I mean, we could spend multiple nights just on that. So
But
I
that's why
thought the
we're,
writing was going to be the hard part, but it is not. That just came. That just kept coming and coming, and I was just got to get it on there. Now it's like, now what?
yeah, now what?
and that's why we're doing this, because it is an entire mindset, thinking of yourself as a business and really beginning to understand the basics of marketing and promoting and all of that. That's why we're doing this, because we know it's the hard part for every author. So Jenny, I was curious, how often do towns, cities, how often do they change their tax rates?
It's just random. I know Victorville changed theirs, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago. And there again, that's also why you want to keep a date of when you sold your books, because if the tax rate does change, Victorville's went into effect January 1st. So at least that made it a calendar year was easier. But I had to break my spreadsheet down and do subtotals for sales before December 31st and sales after December 31st. And there's no real policy on when they change, but I think normally when they do change, at least my experience has been, they change on December 31st. But there again, that website that I showed you to go to for sales tax will tell you if it changed. It'll
You
list
notice that when have you noticed that when it changes, it usually goes up?
Oh, it never goes down. Yeah, never goes down.
That's right. I
Kimberly, were
appreciate.
you trying to say something? You're muted. I don't know if Kimberly was trying to ask a question, but you're muted, Kimberly.
No, I wasn't trying to ask a
Oh,
question.
okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions from anybody?
So
Wow.
we're gonna
I
send
either did really bad or really good.
No, you did really, really
I
well.
do have one.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Catherine.
another
have
one
one
from
more.
Catherine.
Do you use I know you use the spreadsheet. Do you use like QuickBooks or any other format like that helps you track it once you get going? Or
My sales aren't that massive. The
Okay.
the Excel spreadsheet has been enough for me. I'm lucky if I sell. I sell a number on Amazon, but like I said, we don't have to track those individual sales. I don't sell more than maybe 20 or 30 between giving them away and selling them, more than 20 or 30 a combined of my 4 books all together. So no, I do have QuickBooks, but no, I don't use it. You certainly can. I mean, if you get to the point where you're a #1 bestseller and you've got hundreds of books going out, then yeah, I mean, use whatever works for you.
of course I'm going to be. I'm a new author. I'm going to be
Absolutely.
like bestseller. I'm like on it.
Just a question for
Don't
Catherine.
hope.
We'll have a party when you make your first million.
No,
That's right.
absolutely. We'll have parties before then.
Bob, you have a question.
For the answer for Catherine, does anybody know? I mean, this is early 2024. Has Mike Raff got any openings for the Townsend?
I think we're going to wait until it warms up. So he hasn't really talked about scheduling that. Normally, we don't start doing anything until maybe April or May.
Yeah.
And then we pretty much set out during the hottest part of the summer and then go again late fall, late September, October into early November. So we haven't really addressed that for this year yet.
Okay, so just watch for that, Catherine. because this is a yearly thing, and Mike Rath is the one in charge of that.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. So thank you. I'm excited about that.
Also, Catherine, do you have a author's page on our website?
I have not done that yet. So I did, I was looking on the website and I did see that I could do that and fill out that information. I need to do my author's page even for like Amazon and all of it. So I need to do it all like
That
do
is
all
a
of that,
big,
so.
that is a big part of it also. Anita had a question and she's
And
not
I-
in her
and Ann-
screen.
Anne had something typed. I wasn't sure quite what she was saying with her little message, but Anita, what was your question?
Yeah, I put it in the comments too. If you sell merch that's related to your books, do you collect and report the taxes the same way as your books and on the same form?
Yes. Well, I think when you actually get to this, you report it all to the state of California on the same form. I think there are different categories. Like, let's say maybe you order, journals with your name on the front of them, or you order pens, those kinds of things. I think there are different categories within the form that the seller's permit sales tax return that you file with the state. So you would want to make sure that you knew what it was that you sold. So there again, just set up another tab on your Excel spreadsheet for pens or journals or whatever you're selling. But yeah, you calculate the sales tax in that same manner. And there again, if you order them through Amazon, you would want, that's another advantage of and if you order them in bulk from like, if let's say pen supplier, you might contact them and say you're going to use these as resale and make sure that you don't pay sales tax if you're buying that other merchandise.
Okay, thanks.
I have a follow-up question to Anita's. If you're making a kit to where, yeah, I'm selling my books, but I'm selling my books with some of the things kind of like a bundle, would you still separate it in your taxes? Or can you create like the bundle cost this much? And so this is the expenses. I mean, this is the tax on it.
I've not done anything like that. I think the best thing for you that in that respect would probably be to call the state and ask them how to handle that. I really don't know. Mira, does a publishing house do your taxes for you? I think that would be part of your contract. If you got a contract with an agent and a publishing house to do your books, chances are no. I think they're probably going to tell you you're on your own for doing your own income tax returns, but that might be something negotiable if you're, getting a contract with someone is, I want you to do my tax returns for me. But I would say off the top of my head, no, they're going to tell you to do your own.
I'm too scared to write a book now. This is like
They may do all the tracking. They may do all the
too much
tracking
work.
for you, but I think would still have to do your own taxes. But there again, that's a contract negotiation.
Okay, well, this is a good excuse not to get past my 5 pages. But but anyway, thank you.
Okay, Anne,
You
unmute
have a
yourself
story to
because I know
tell.
you
Tell
typed
it.
something and I wasn't sure what it was you were asking.
Is Ann?
There she goes.
th-
Can't hear you, Anne.
No, no. Ann, can you hear us? I don't know.
Well, try typing it again, maybe, and because I wasn't sure what you were asking me.
Oh, it doesn't let her speak. The computer doesn't let her
okay.
speak.
So type your question again and I'll see if I can figure out what it is you're trying to ask me.
While she's doing that, this presentation is also going to be on our YouTube channel. So I know for myself, I'm going to be watching it over again. And especially just before I do my taxes next time, I'm going to make sure I have everything right.
Okay, Ann, thanks. And you guys all know my email address. I'm not real fond of telephone calls because they're very interruptive, but if you've got questions, send me an email and I will answer your email. And then if I can't answer it sufficiently, we can set up a scheduled time for phone calls. I tend to not answer calls during the day because when I'm editing it, it totally disrupts my train of thought. And answering emails is much quicker and more time efficient too. But yeah, I'm always at the meetings. You can always ask me at the meeting if you can get my attention. Everybody wants me at the meetings, but I'm always here to answer questions.
Yeah, and I'm thinking one of the things that we're gonna need, and maybe Jenny and I can work on this and get it out to everybody. Maybe a template for the spreadsheet so that people can have that to start with, and then they can plug in their own names of their books and their tabs and all of that. We're gonna try to make this workable for everybody so that you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Well, if anybody wants me to send them the actual the dummy Excel sheet that I built for this presentation, I can send it as a separate attachment to an email if you want me to do that, because then you can just erase my dummy information and plug in your own real numbers. Just send me an email and I'll send you back that dummy worksheet.
Well, send it to me, Jenny, and I'll send it to everybody because I'm gonna send them your
okay.
presentation anyway.
That's easy. And like I said, I just built the one tab, but on my own personal one, I have a separate tab for each book. And I do recommend that you do it that way, just because it's easier to track what went where and your costs and all of that kind of stuff if you do it separately.
Well, and like you said, many times our books are different prices depending on how many pages the books are. That will affect how much Amazon charges and how much we end up charging. So it's a good idea to have a separate page.
Yeah, unless you know that every one of them is identical. Mine sell for different prices, and that's one of the reasons I do it. But if you've got a series of books and they all sell for exactly the same price, but there again, unless your page count is also exactly the same, your cost is going to be different. So yeah, I always recommend a separate tab for each book.
All right. Any last questions before we bid each other a good night?
Excellent
Thank you,
presentation.
everybody.
Thank
I
you,
really
Jenny.
appreciate it.
This was
Thank you
great.
very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank
Jen.
you, Jenny.
You're
Yep.
welcome. Like I said, I'm always here for anybody that needs me.
Thanks, Jenny.
We
That's
know and we
nice.
appreciate
And it's
you.
nice to see you, Barbara.
Definitely.
Good
All
night,
right, everybody. We'll
All right,
see
good
each other
night.
whenever.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.